Good morning and welcome to this Metro Plan Orlando MAC meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order for June 26, 2025. My name is Jordan Smith and I'll be chairing the meeting today. We have a team of folks working to ensure this meeting runs smoothly for us in the room and those listening online. As we continue to meet in person, all committee members are required to be physically present here in the Metro Plan Orlando boardroom for purposes of achieving a quorum. Staff will continue to stream our meetings online for public access. Now it's time for the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will please rise. Today I'll ask Mayor Dallas to please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning again. So this morning I ask that everyone silence your phones, smart devices. I do ask that all committee members wait to be recognized to speak and to activate your microphones before speaking and turning them back off when you're complete. There are two public comment points in the meeting. The first is for action items and the second is for comments of a general nature. You may provide your public comments in person, virtually over Zoom, or in advance by email or phone message. We want this and all future meetings to be accessible to all. Participants may join by computer, tablet, or by phone. If you need accommodations to participate in the future, please contact Metro Plan Orlando. And now, agenda review, Ms. Larson.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. We've got just a couple brief announcements this morning. So first off, please note on your calendars the date of our MTP public meeting. So we've had a lot of MTP meetings, over the past year and a half, but this is the big public meeting, and it will be held on September 29th at the Orange County Multicultural Center in Pine Hills. I'm letting you know this now because we won't be meeting in August. So the next time we meet is in first week of September. So, want to give some more leeway on that, getting on your calendar. So again, that date is September 29th. And we'll send you out more information about that. Next up is we'll be closed on Friday, July 4th for in observance of Independence Day. And then that's it in terms of comments. It's summer and school is out, so our safety moment will address teen driving. And so Adriana Rodriguez is going to provide us with that safety moment today.
Good morning, Chair, committee members. The safety moment for this month is about teen drivers. Crash records indicate that teen driver fatal crashes increased 10% from pre-COVID. Crash trends have showed a significant increase in serious injuries and fatalities involving teen drivers associated with speeding and aggressive driving, as well as not wearing a seatbelt. According to the FDOT Teen Safe Driving Coalition 2024 fact sheet, within Florida, the county with the most serious injuries involving teen drivers is Orange County. Now, efforts to address factors impacting teen drivers include the new law for first-time drivers in Florida requiring teens aged 15 to 17 to complete a state-approved driver's education course before obtaining their learner's permit. Previously, teens were only required to complete a traffic law and substance abuse course before obtaining their learner's permit. Also, the Teen Safe Driving Coalition is leading a number of campaigns targeting high schoolers. And they are sending via mail the Safe Driving Guide to all parents of teens who recently obtained their learner's permit. Another important resource to reduce the risks of teen drivers getting involved into a crash, it is the Florida Sheriff's Association Teen Driver Challenge. This program was created in 2007, and it is offered across 42 counties across Florida. This Teen Driver Challenge program is not intended to replace the driving education course. It is intended to improve skills and confidence in teen drivers, so ultimately reducing the risk of them being involved in a serious crash. The program combines classroom instruction and driving exercises, focusing on defensive driving maneuvers such as emergency braking and cornering. This course is open to drivers between the ages of 15 and 19 who have held a learner's permit or a driver license for at least 6 months. There is no cost for eligible teens. Certified law enforcement officers from the Florida Sheriff's Association teach the courses. And there is a great benefit related to some insurance companies providing discounts for teens who complete the program. I want to share that recently my 17-year-old son completed this program. He was not excited in the beginning about taking a class on a Saturday morning. However, he ended up being glad that he participated. He mentioned that he learned valuable driving techniques, and the part of the program that he enjoyed the most was the driving exercises, because he was able to apply the techniques that they learned during the classroom portion. He also mentioned that the program is fun and engaging, an overall positive experience and interaction with law enforcement. So now we're going to watch a short video that provides more information about the program.
Let's face it, driving in Orlando can be scary, even more so if you're new behind the wheel. That's why the Orange County Sheriff's Office has a class designed for teen drivers to get them more comfortable on the road. The Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the Florida Sheriff's Association, recently launched the Teen Driver Challenge in Orange County.
It's a program that's designed to assist teen drivers with learning a little more about responsible driving, defensive driving, good driving habits and practices that'll help keep them alive on the road.
The course, which is open to drivers between ages 15 and 19, is a mix of classroom learning and hands-on experience. The goal? Reducing the chances of teens being involved in a crash.
Kids love getting their permit, and then they get their car and their freedom. It's fun, but at the same time, we want you to be safe, we want you to be smart, and always keep your eyes on the road.
The 8-hour course starts in the classroom, where the teens first learn the do's and don'ts of staying safe on the road. Then it's outside, where instructors walk the teens around the vehicles, letting them check the tire pressure and inspect what's under the hood.
That 4,000-pound vehicle that they're driving can become a very dangerous object if they don't care for it the way they should.
Now that the cars are checked, the teens are brought out here to the driving pad, and they're paired with a certified driving instructor. Teens get to test their driving skills, cornering, backing up, emergency braking, and skid recovery.
You get to make the mistakes that you usually wouldn't be able to, and then figure out how you would get out of those situations. So that's pretty cool.
The teens aren't graded on their skills, so there's no failing this course, but they are provided feedback and given tips on how to be better drivers.
It gives us an opportunity to show them some good habits and keep the community safe and keep our teens safe, which in turn keeps the road safer and all the community members as well.
To get more information on the Teen Driver Challenge, including how to sign up for the course, go to ocso.com/teendriver. Oh, and in case you were wondering, there is no parallel parking test. For the Orange County Sheriff's Office, I'm John Busdecker.
Again, this short video was about Orange County, the Orange County program, but a similar program is offered in 42 counties across the state. With that, I conclude my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions you may have.
Do any committee members have any questions?
Just a statement. I had a parallel park, get my license. I had to teach my kids to do it for nothing. And then they say, we didn't have to do it, Dad. Well, at least they know now. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
I do have a 17-year-old that is a brand new driver as well. So I will definitely be looking into the course. Do you know if it's in Seminole County?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, if you go to the Florida Sheriff's Association website, you can, there is a link to each of the counties, and there is one offer in Seminole.
Okay.
Yes, and you can select, because these classes have a limited number of teens per class. So in my case, for my son, I live in Orange County, but I registered him for the Osceola County program because they had availability for the Saturday that we wanted. So you can check other counties around. Again, it's free. This program is voluntary at this point. It is not part of the requirements for teens obtaining a driver license. Yeah, I feel it is important, but it is not a requirement, but it is very, very valuable.
So then how does this actually tie in with the new law in Florida that teens 17 to 19 to get their permit must go through a class the exact same length? But so this doesn't qualify. That begins August 1st is the new law that just
The
signed
requirement is for teens to complete a driver's education course, which is offered. I know that it is offered for the Florida virtual school. They have the program there, but it is an online class. There are other courses that are certified that can apply, but this one is not intended to replace those. This is, again, requires that the teen has held the learner's permit for about 6 months. It is intended to improve their skills and confidence. So they require that the teen is confident enough driving so they can practice these techniques.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. Very
Thank you.
informative. We will now go to agency reports, partner updates. First is Mr. Scarf with FDOT District 5. Mr. Scarf, you're up.
Morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. 2 announcements for you this morning. The department will be holding a public hearing for the project development and environment study for US 1792. And this is for evaluating alternatives to widen the existing 2-lane roadway to 4 lanes. And that's going to take place this evening. It's an in-person public hearing. The virtual was held last night. And it's at 5:30 at Miracle Springs Church. And that's at 5646 South Orange Blossom Trail in Intercession City. So it's a little south of most of your municipalities, but I just want to make you aware of it. Of note, this project is also currently number 4 on Metro Plan's prioritized project list under the state highway system and state road projects. So that'll be happening this evening. Next, in the same vein of our safety presentation, I'd like to provide the reminder that, or inform you rather, of Operation Southern Slowdown. So this is an annual week-long speed enforcement and public education campaign conducted in partnership with the National Highway Traffic Safety and Administration. And the southeastern states of Florida, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee are participating. And this initiative builds a long-lasting tradition of collaboration and aims to reduce speed-related fatalities and serious injury crashes by targeting speeding and aggressive driving. Florida's campaign will kick off with a press conference and media markets across the state, and the enforcement mobilization will run from July 14th to July 19th. So just so you're aware, there's going to be higher level enforcement occurring during that time. Pending questions, that concludes my updates for this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Scarf. Now we'll move to, and I apologize if I butcher your name, Mr. Abentuno is here today from Lynx.
Yes, hello. Good morning, Chair and Board. Just a few brief updates. So looking at ridership, we're We're still in that 68 to 70,000 range on the fixed route for our daily riders. And when we include all modes, that gets up to about the mid 70,000s for our daily riders. So still looking on that upward trend, looking good. And as for some projects we've got going on, we're just wrapping up a series of UPWP funded projects. So we took a look at the State Road 436 corridor and are looking at TOD in that area. We also did an assessment of accessibility in our fleet facilities and stops as well. And we did a resiliency assessment as well throughout the last year. So a lot of exciting projects that are getting wrapped up in the last year. After that, that concludes my update.
Thank you. And last, we have Ms. Williams from Florida's Turnpike Enterprise, who is joining us virtually. Ms. Williams, when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Yes. Our agency has a website, the floridasturnpike.com, and if you select traveler information, you can find details about weekly lane closures, upcoming movement of traffic for construction projects. And there are 5 that I'd like to highlight quickly for you. By the way, you can have this delivered to your inbox. If you go online, you can see it on our website. In the 3 counties, Orange, Osceola, and Seminole, I've picked up that we're doing electronic toll conversion. Our project from Lantana, South Florida to Three Lakes Toll Plaza continues, putting a better system of collecting tolls electronically. Then we're going to highlight the interchange that is at Clay Whaley, getting some work there. It's in Osceola County. It's widening from 2 to 4 lanes from Clay Whaley. It used to be called Kissimmee Park Road. It goes up to US 192. This particular construction project is going to work on that interchange, constructing a brand new one at West Nolte Road, removing existing ramps at Clay Whaley once we've got the new interchange open to traffic. This is going to take a while, continue through 2029. So you have some intermittent shoulder closures coming up on that. You can still get through the turnpike. Other developing projects we have is at Sand Lake Road. There's an interchange development with some single lane closures occurring between that area on State Road 482. That's in Orange County, looking at enhancing connectivity with getting a new interchange there, helping longevity of the road. And that construction will go through 2027. Got a little work we're doing at Claremont, State Road 50 to Hancock, Mineola, Hancock Road. We're going to have overnight single lane closures working through that segment near Claremont exit. And State Road 50, we are going to have to do some full ramp closures at night, 10 p.m. to 5:30 on Sunday. And this will continue. We've got some good detour info about how to navigate. Southbound as well, West Colonial traffic will be directed to go a different way, traveling east to access. And at Black Still Lake Road, under the turnpike, there's going to be a full closure of that road over the weekend. There's a lot of work to be done there to get the arterial roads in good shape around our interchange. The West Orange Trail Bridge will be replaced as well. New toll collection gantries going up. A lot of work there. Better lighting, drainage. So finalizing our work is going to include some more lane closures on the main line for an expansion in Lake County. Sorry. Oh, yeah. Let's go forward to your county again. And this one is at International Drive. Overnight single lane closures and a full ramp closure at State Road 417, the entrance to from Celebration. We're going to fix the southbound is going to be asked to go a different direction. We have some good travel information on those exits there. If you have to make that move, we'll direct you. The project also is going to enhance connectivity, making the road reflective signs, rumble strips, guardrails, and pavement markings so that our smart cars will be able to see them and navigate better. Seminole Expressway, we've got some work going there, overnight single lane closures And the entrance ramps at Aloma are going to have full ramp closures with some detours shown there as well at Red Bug Lake Road, exit 42. That one as well, we're going to do this work with least impact to drivers, 11:30 at night till 5 a.m. That's what we have other than a couple little bridge painting projects. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to speak to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Members, are there any questions for our agency partners? Commissioner Ramos?
Yes. Hello, Victoria. This is Commissioner Ramos from the town of Oakland. I know that you're working on the West Colonial Highway 50 Claremont exit. And again, it's known as the Claremont exit on the turnpike, but it's the exit to the town of Oakland. And a lot of the citizens on the area have been requesting for the signs to be turned on the turnpike going northbound into that exit to say, welcome to Oakland, not just Claremont or Wood Garden. I know southbound on that turnpike, it says, welcome to Oakland. So I want to know, I know I had told Cy, the previous Florida Turnpike rep, and I know he was working on it for the last year, 2 years, and
Oh my.
I just want to know
Okay,
where we're gonna end
CLC
up at.
had taken that from you at the time. So your request is, since we have southbound signage for your city, you'd like to have us alert drivers that are northbound. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. I'll see what I can do.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, agency partners. I would now turn it over to Ms. Smith for the roll call.
Carson. Davitt. Sullivan for DeCiccio.
Here.
Dowless. Gardner. Guthrie. Henson.
Here.
Kennedy. McCann.
Here.
Ramos.
Present.
Sackett.
Here.
Slated. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum physically present, and I have received requests for excused absences from Mayor Slated, Councilman Davitt, and Commissioner Kennedy.
Do we have a motion to excuse?
So moved.
Mayor Henson, motion, second Sackett. All in favor?
Aye.
So that is passed. Thank you. We will now move here public comments on action items. We ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and please hold comments to 2 minutes or less. If any members of the public wish to comment and are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We'll send you a prompt to unmute your mic. If you need accommodations to participate in the future, please contact Metro Plan Orlando. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, we do not have any hands on the virtual side, and I have not received any requests to speak in person.
Okay. Are there any written comments that were submitted before the meeting?
There are none.
Thank you. We will now move to action items. We have 3 action items today. Our first action item is approval of the MAC minutes from June 5th, 2025. These can be viewed at section 1 in your agenda packets. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Henson. Do I have a second? Second by Mayor McCann. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. So that is passed. Next, we're considering a request to recommend approval of the fiscal year 2025, 26, 29, 30 Transportation Improvement Plan. Material is provided in section 2. We will hear from Mr. Jason Sorturio of Metro Plan Orlando, who will provide us more information. Mr. Sorturio, the floor is yours.
Morning, Chair and committee members. This morning I'll be presenting the fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2030 Transportation Improvement, or TIP, draft for adoption, and you'll have some additional information in section 2 of your agenda packets. So the purpose of the TIP is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects over the next 5 years in our region. The TIP includes locally funded projects as well as Central Florida Expressway projects for informational purposes and to show a complete picture of transportation-related spending throughout our region. And the TIP is updated annually and it is consistent with the adopted prioritized project list, which was adopted in July of 2024. The TIP is broken down into several sections that are identified on the right side of the screen. And on the left side of the screen, you can see the different project categories for the TIP. And each project category has its own section with its own project list. And the TIP also includes an abbreviation and acronym guide, as well as a systems performance report. And within the TIP, we have a total of 552 projects with approximately 11.7 billion in funding. So as you can tell, we have a lot going on over the next 5 years. Within the TIP, we have a total of 271 projects that are either federal, state, or turnpike funded, and that comes out to approximately 5.5 billion. This does not include the 1.3 billion in local funds that our partner agencies contribute to projects, and this also does not include projects listed in the partner funded projects section, which, as I mentioned, are only for informational purposes. And the pie graph on the screen breaks this down by the sections of the TIP. And it should be noted, obviously I-4 makes up approximately 49% of that chart. This does include the $2 billion in discretionary funding that we received as part of the governor's Moving Florida Forward initiative, which is why that's slightly skewed. Within the TIP, we have a total of 39 projects that are prioritized and funded by Metro Plan Orlando using our Transportation Management Agency or TMA funds. These projects have approximately 145 million in funding over the next 5 years. And this does not include the 31 million in funding that we added to 3 state highway project systems in order to help the state balance the work program. And that was an amendment that I came in front of you with earlier this year. And the table displays breakdown based on project type. We've got complete streets, bicycle and pedestrian, transportation systems management and operations, or TISMO, and transit capital. So since I came in front of you last time, we've made a few minor edits to the TIP. We received the Central Florida Expressway Authority 5-year work plan, which added approximately 168 projects. And I believe that was about 4.5 billion in funding. We have also updated the project name and management agency for a couple projects, and we have also added 4 additional partner-funded projects. Additionally, we received feedback from several agencies concerning the removal of federal carbon reduction funding from the TIP, and we have been in discussion with FDOT regarding if and when these funds will be added back into the TIP. While the public comment period is still open until July 7th, we do have a summary of some comments we have received to date. We received feedback regarding Sunrail expansion, funding for the Shingle Creek Trail, signage for slower drivers to move over, and regarding the convenience of Lynx transportation services for senior citizens. Additionally, we received several comments regarding prioritizing and advancing projects along Mitchell Hammock Road in Oviedo. We also received a suggestion to conduct a survey on the feasibility of a light rail in the Mitchell Hammock Road center median. To date, we have hosted 2 virtual Ask a Planner sessions, as well as 1 TIP open house at the Seminole County Public Library Oviedo branch. Thank you, Mayor McCann, for stopping by last week. We have received some great public feedback through these events, including the following. State Road 50 widening in eastern Orange County is much needed. Also, there's a real desire to reduce traffic congestion through increased public transportation and the expansion of Sunrail locally, as well as Brightline to Tampa. There's a desire for safety for all users, especially bicycle and pedestrians and new drivers. And there should be wider sidewalks on Mitchell Hammock Road in Oviedo. As I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information in section 2 of your agenda packets. With that being said, unless there are any questions, we are asking for your recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Sartorio?
Yes, thank you. Sunrail Phase 3 PD&E, $6 million. What is the estimated completion date of that PD&E?
I'll let Alex.
Alex here for the non-tip specific ones. So that PD&E, I think actually the procurement process, I believe, is still ongoing. It's for the Sunshine Corridor PD&E. Hopefully that starts sometime this year. PD&Es of that scale, 18 to 24 months typically. Don't quote me on that. Once they get a consultant on board, project schedule and that public participation process will also kick off as well. So more to come on that, but typically about a 24-month schedule once they kick off.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Do I have a motion to recommend approval of the 2026-2030 TIP?
Motion, Dallas.
Motion by Mayor Dallas.
Second.
Second by Mayor Henson. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Our last item is a request to recommend approval of the prioritized project list. Information on this action item can be found in section 3 of your packet. Mr. Slade Down from staff will provide a brief summary. Mr. Slade.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like you just mentioned, I'll be walking you through a request to approve the annual update to the prioritized project list. So at our last meeting, I asked you to, I brought the preview of this year's update to the PPL, and we were looking for feedback, and so now we're bringing that final version to you today. Bit of background for anyone who may have missed that meeting. PPL, the prioritized project list, it's one of our three of our core products. Here at Metroplan Orlando, we have the MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which has kind of all of our visioning, kind of all of our research for the 25-year vision for the region. The TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, which Jason just touched on, is the upcoming 5 years of projects and project phases that have money allocated to them. And then the PPL acts as sort of a bridge between those two plans. So it covers the 10 years following the TIP. So in this case, it would be 2031 to 2041. And the idea of the PPL is kind of like an on-deck circle. So projects, based on what we estimate our funding to be, what resources we have at our disposal, we can coordinate with our partner agencies to make sure that resources are in place on their end, staff time, that sort of thing. And then when the money becomes available, we can hit the ground running and get those projects moving. So as part of that preview process at our last meeting, we asked for that feedback, and we heard from all of your staffs on different projects within your municipalities. We received minor adjustments to cost estimates, as well as minor adjustments to project limits, like, the actual distance and limits of some specific projects. But long and short of it is, we did not make any changes to project rankings. Those have been prioritized as part of the MTP process. So those rankings stay as is, and will continue to do so. So with that, keep it short and sweet for you, and like to ask for your recommendation of approval for this year's update to the PPL. Happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Are there any questions for Mr. Downs? Seeing none, do I have a motion to recommend approval of the PPL?
Motion.
Motion by Mayor McCann. Do I have a second? Second by Mayor Henson. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Downs.
Thank you.
Now we move to presentations and status reports. We have only one informational presentation today. Please hold your questions until the presentation ends if possible. For our only presentation, we have a status update on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan from Ms. Taylor Laurent of MetroPlan Orlando, who will give us information on ongoing activities and next steps. This presentation will also include an interactive discussion of the second iteration of funding scenarios for the MTP. Ms. Laurent, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So at your places, you'll see a couple handouts for you. These are directly from your agenda packets, and they represent the second draft funding scenarios that we've developed for the 2050 MTP. So taking all the feedback that we learned from you back in April at our MTP Summit, the discussions that we've had with you and each of our other advisory committees and board members and MTP technical workshop participants, all that feedback, as well as the public information, has been used to curate down to these next 4 scenarios for our discussion today. As you've looked over the agenda packets and the handouts this morning, you've likely seen that they're very similar, and that's on purpose. We've made a lot of ground and built a lot of consensus on the majority of these funding scenarios. So these last few questions that we have, the final few details that we're going to be talking about today, are the primary differences between these 4 scenarios. And we'll dive into those a little bit later. But as a quick reminder, the MPO funding policy that we're going to be discussing is only applied to that third bucket that we discussed from our meetings last month. We have state and federal funds, as well as transit funds that are all incorporated and documented within the 2050 MTP. But the funding policy itself that we're talking about only applies to the $34 million per year of federal TMA funds allocated to MetroPlan Orlando and prioritized and ultimately programmed by DOT through the LAP program. So with that, we do have 5 questions for you this morning that we're going to be talking through to differentiate between these 2 scenarios and get your feedback. I will be asking each of the questions, providing a little bit of context for each one, and then opening it up for discussion and then the polling. As I do ask the questions, if we have a yes answer, I will be asking you to put your placards up. So that way I can quickly count how many responses I'm getting for each of the yes/no questions. Any questions on how we're going to move through this morning? No? Okay, then we'll dive right in. The first question I have for you is really looking at the first 2 funding scenarios and asking, should we continue to maintain a set aside for that high injury network countermeasure projects modal category, or should those projects be removed from that high injury network category and be recategorized within other areas of the funding policy? So this is really asking, do you prefer that safety set aside scenario or the recategorizing safety scenario of those 2 options? Do we have any questions or any clarification items, or we'll go straight to polling? Okay, if you would say yes to include that high injury network countermeasure category, please place your placards up and I'll go ahead and count those. Okay.
If I might, so during that workshop, so that everybody understands.
Yes.
What she's very specifically saying is that, do we separate safety or do we include it in every single project anyway, or the other ones automatically? Does it need to have a separate slot of funding versus being included in every one of the other issues? Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman. But if I'm not mistaken, the high injury network, I mean, that's a set aside, not just safety in general. It's some of the ones that are extraordinarily high. Am I correct? Aren't they a pull out for a reason?
So
Yeah, that's why I want those differentiated.
Yes, so that high injury network category is proposed as a dedicated funding source to be able to more expeditiously implement safety improvement projects that were identified in our Vision Zero action plans. If those projects are recategorized, we do not have a high injury network category, then they are competing against all of the other projects and transportation improvements that we have within our area and may not be implemented as quickly as they could if they had a dedicated source of funding to move them forward. So those are the two differences between those items. Does that change anyone's answer? Do we need to repoll?
Anybody want to clarify their votes?
Okay. And any other questions or comments on this one before we move to question 2? All right, seeing none, we'll keep moving forward. So this question really focuses on the third proposed scenario, where we're looking at potential restrictions to various project categories. So this is the green one on the handout summary. We're asking under the TISMO category, should there be a box of funding within that modal category that allocates funds specifically for intelligent transportation systems projects? So if that restriction is included, so if you were to say yes to that, there would be no changes to the amount of funding allocated to the TISMO category as a whole, but that extra boxed fund in there shows slightly more ITS projects versus TISMO projects in general, versus slightly fewer TISMO projects and more ITS improvements. So it's a very minor element here, but I do want to make sure that I ask you this question. Do we have any questions about the question?
I have a question. If you wouldn't mind going through that again for me and tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me if I vote no, what does that mean in terms of application?
So in terms of implementation, if you want to look at the handouts, go straight to the last page of the packets that you have. You'll see a overall annualized scenario comparison handout. So this is looking at the impacts and results of each of these proposed scenarios that are estimated. If you look at column 4 for ITS set aside and the restricted active transportation scenario, you're going to be looking at, make some notes here, miles of TISMO improvements. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th item down. Right now that's showing 6.7 miles of TISMO improvements estimated under the restricted scenario, compared to the other scenarios where you're seeing 7.9, approximately 7 to 7.9 miles of improvements. So it's a slight decrease in the number of TISMO improvements that you would see, but a slight increase in the number of intersections improved. That's where we're estimating ITS improvements, which is that very next line down. So this is a very slight change in how we're seeing funding allocated to specific project types under the TISMO category. Do we want it to be more broadly available? We look at TISMO and ITS together as a group, or do we want a specific funding set aside for ITS specific projects under the TISMO category? So it's a very slight element. I will be asking this to the TISMO Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow to get their thoughts on that as well. But really, this is a slight variation between these two items. When we asked our technical workshop participants about this particular item, so this is all of your staff, as well as our technical advisory committee and TISMO advisory committee members, those who are able to attend in person, they recommended no, to not include this restriction and to allow that TISMO category to be more broadly used for all projects as they are prioritized within the MTP.
Anybody have questions on this scenario?
So they didn't want to see that separation of the intersections with the TISMO, the miles? Is that what the staff?
They were trying to, rather than subdividing the TISMO category, they said, let's look at it as a whole and address and prioritize those projects as a whole, rather than saying TISMO is separate from ITS.
So if I was to agree with staff, it would be the.
You would vote no. Mm-hmm.
I don't know where this came from. To give us
All right, so in terms of where this question came from, because this is very nuanced, this was a suggestion that was provided at the April MTP Technical Summit, where there was a desire to see a stronger focus on technology improvements throughout the area. And that's where this extra sub box came from within the TISMO category. So that's why we're asking that question, to make sure that we can close the loop on the feedback that we've heard throughout the year. Any other questions before I ask for polling, yeses or nos?
Based on that,
For those online, the question is, staff, are they recommending to do no, not to include? That is correct. They're saying that they would prefer to see all TISMO and ITS projects evaluated equally, rather than having them in two separate categories.
Yeah, if I can add, there's also an acknowledgement, like when you look at what transportation systems management and operations is as a whole, the mindset of the traffic engineer is use the right tool for the right job. And as we're solving the worst of our intersections, not forcing technology when another maybe add lane, or it could be add turn lane, not add lane, add turn lane, or an intersection improvement as a solution. So they wanted to have that latitude to use the best solution for the situation rather than saying we have to spend this certain money on technology irregardless of what's actually needed on the ground. So it was a trust in the process as it relates to intersection improvement analysis and what's leveraged, whether it's improved technology or if it's something, actually geometrical. So that was I would say, the discussion that we heard around that. If you look at our existing prioritized project list and you look at the TISMO category, you see a lot of ITS technology projects already in the mix. So it's kind of already incorporated to some degree based on the necessary kind of tool for the job. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. As Taylor mentioned, we will be asking this question specifically to our Systems Management and Operations Advisory Committee tomorrow morning to kick the tires a little more to kind of better understand that. But that was the sentiment that we got at our last technical workshop, was kind of allow them to leverage the best solution based on their professional engineering judgment.
Mayor McCann.
So just to clarify, so if we trust the process, we would be voting against this separation. Our vote would be no.
Your vote would be no to provide more flexibility within the TISMO category and not basically forcing a set aside of funds, but just having one list and allowing the TISMO Advisory Committee to recommend what projects advance accordingly.
But we want to micromanage.
If that's your prerogative, vote yes.
All right, so then that's kind of giving the indication of what the poll results will be, but if you would vote, prefer to say yes to include that extra restriction, please put your placards up. If not, I'm just gonna go ahead and write 8 for no's. All right, thank you. This one is also more of a nuanced element, still looking at that exact same third scenario, but this is looking at our active transportation category. So within active transportation, we've had several discussions this year and have heard very loudly and clearly that we all agree there should be a school mobility program funding set aside within active transportation. So that's not a question at this point in time. But of the remaining funds under the active transportation list, we have some reserved for that school mobility program. Of the rest, should those funds be restricted to only regional trail projects, or should it be allowed to be used more broadly for all active transportation project improvements? Sounds a little easier to kind of wrap our brains around than the ITS one, hopefully. But are there any questions or items that I can use to help clarify the question we're asking here?
I have a question. So if you're looking at the prioritized list moving forward, those in the prioritized list, those projects, are they more geared toward the movement of the vehicles or the movement of the people on the trucks? I'm trying to talk myself through this.
So under the active transportation category, this is really focused on project improvements for our bicyclists, our pedestrians, our most vulnerable users. So the projects generally are associated with trails, sidewalk improvements, bike lanes, pedestrian hybrid beacons to be able to help with crossing the streets in various locations. There are a handful of others, but that's generally the types of improvements that have been included under active transportation historically. This question came up at the summit as well, and has been kind of banded around trying to see what everyone's thoughts are on this element. So how we've done things in the past and what you've seen on the prioritized project list from today is that the active transportation project types are not restricted to one particular type of improvement. We have a Safe Routes to School supplementary program that exists currently, as well as the all active transportation project types. So what we have under the no do not restrict option. If we were to make a change, that would be applying a restriction to only allow funds to be used for that school mobility program and regional trail projects only. So that would be an implementation for next year's prioritized project list if that funding policy goes into effect.
It just seems that if you're comparing the amount of money needed for trails and bicycles, that amount would be minimal compared to what's going to be needed for roads. Is that the comparison I'm dealing with right now? Because then if it just seems like maybe you can reduce the amount being held aside. I just think that something should be held aside, maybe not the amount. Can you tell me the amount?
Right.
Percentage?
So you look at the second to last handout in your packet. It's a scenario comparison of all of our scenarios that we're talking about today and the percentage of funding allocated to each of those modal categories. The 5 questions that I'm asking are really about the nuances and difference between our 4 scenarios. But the 4th row down is the percentage of funding under each particular scenario that would be allocated to each mode. So active transportation, depending on which scenario we're looking at, varies between 8 and 11% of funding across the 4 scenarios we're talking about today.
Okay.
So it's relatively minor in comparison to the other categories that we're talking about.
Okay.
But of that 8 to 11%, depending on which scenario we're looking at, we're asking the question, should it be open to the school mobility program and regional trail projects only? Or should it be used for the school mobility program and all active transportation project improvements?
So what
So for
project,
what's eligible.
what active projects would be at risk for not being completed?
So that would be any other active transportation type improvements. That would be bike lane improvements, standalone ones, standalone pedestrian hybrid beacons or crossing improvements, standalone sidewalk projects, not near schools, those types of elements. So that's why the MTP technical workshop participants were recommending not to impose that restriction and to have it be more open to the process. And as improvements are needed, to go through and trust how things have worked historically, because that has been going well. But again, this was a topic that was raised at the summit and that we're trying to make sure that we close the loop on, so that way we can build consensus on the way that we're building this funding policy.
Mayor McCann.
Yeah, so clearly, remember during the summit and then during the technical workshop, the group, after a really deep dive, not like a quick vote, we all voted no, do not restrict it. The funding is still going to trail programs at school mobility. The money is still there. It's just they have a little bit more freedom of exactly how the funds are spent. And so between the workshop and the summit, the majority of the participants voted no, if that helps.
Right. Any other questions or comments up front before I ask you to move your placards? All right, then if you would say yes to restricting those funds to specific project types, just the school mobility program and regional trail projects, please raise your placard vertically. That's easy. Thank you. All right, this one is more of a definition of that school mobility program eligibility item. So this is not clearly represented in your handouts today. This is more of a definition change of what is eligible under the school mobility program box. Historically, this has been an element for us to be able to provide funding for FDOT Safe Routes to School projects to assist with covering cost overages in the in the event that a project could not move forward otherwise. So that's been very successful and very helpful for us to be able to keep these important projects moving forward on schedule. What we're asking about today is, should that definition moving forward of the school mobility program be expanded to not only be what we've done before, but to also include a description of projects for hazardous walking conditions. In that case, that would expand the program's definition and also allow Metro Plan Orlando to initiate projects in and around school areas where there are hazardous walking conditions, in addition to what FDOT does through the Safe Routes to School program. So if we say yes, that would be creating one program under the 2050 MTP that addresses both of those topics. If we say no, then we would be creating two separate programs, one for school mobility, the other for a separate hazardous walking conditions element. So this is a very nuanced item. When we asked this to the technical workshop participants a few weeks ago, they recommended to include it as one program. So that way we could potentially expand upon the scopes of existing FDOT school Safe Routes to School projects to be able to help them grow and accomplish all that they need to, rather than having two separate elements and having to create two projects potentially for these different improvement types. So that was some of their logic over the past couple of weeks for that discussion. It looks like everyone's ready to vote, so I'm assuming there's no questions. I will pause. I'm seeing a unanimous decision here, so thank you so much. That would be 8. And then this has been our last question for today. This is the last hard one, I promise. There's been a lot of discussion over the past several months about widening and new roadway construction. This was brought up very early on this year, as well as at the MTP Summit back in April, and has been a continued discussion since then. So we're bringing it back to you one more time. Should MPO funding through Metro Plan Orlando be used for widening and new corridor roadway construction projects through the addition of a widening and new corridor category in the funding policy? Or should those widening projects primarily be addressed through state funding opportunities? So if we go back to that bucket metaphor from earlier and from your meeting last month or earlier this month, that would be the FDOT state highway system red bucket. So not our MPO navy blue bucket. And if you want to look at the potential implications of what a widening category could look like, that is included in your handouts. I would go to either of the two summary comparisons. The widening and new corridor categories, the one on the far right-hand side of those pages, and you can see how the changes in funding percentage are impacted based on the inclusion of a new category. But then you can also look at the annualized scenario comparison handout to see what that means in terms of what we would estimate to get out of that particular scenario and how that varies from the others that we've talked about today. As you're looking through that, when we asked this question to our technical workshop participants 2 weeks ago, it was nearly unanimous in terms of everyone saying no, do not include that category, because they would prefer to see other funds used for those widening and new corridor construction projects outside of the MPO process. Does anyone here have any questions about this topic or items that we want to raise and discuss together? Are we ready for a poll? Okay, well then if you say yes to include that new category for widening a new corridor construction, please raise your placards vertically. If you would say no, do not include that new category, please leave them on the table as they are. Okay. Very clear today, thank you. So with that, I've been quickly doing math as we've been doing all this. So based on the responses that you've given today, we are seeing that your preference is for the safety set aside scenario. Based on all the yeses and nos you've given today, that's what you're leaning towards. That is the exact same scenario that the Community Advisory Committee yesterday also arrived at, as well as our MTP technical workshop participants. So I am excited to see some consensus building across all of our committees and working groups. How do we feel about that? All right, well, I'll open it back up again for discussion in just a moment in case there's any thoughts or ideas that we want to share together. But in terms of next steps, we will be asking these same questions we've already mentioned to our TISMO Advisory Committee tomorrow, but also our Technical Advisory Committee, and presenting those results of your feedback and your thoughts and your recommendations to the board here in July for their final recommendation on that element as well. Once we've received all of that feedback, we're going to be using the recommended scenario based on all of the feedback that we're going to get to develop a preview of the 2050 MTP cost feasible plan. So the application of this funding scenario, as well as being able to see what those other fund types look like within the 2050 MTP. And you'll see that at your early September meeting. So the next time that we're all together. And with that, we are coming to the last quarter of the development of our 2050 MTP. So we're nearing those final steps. We're talking about the completion of the cost feasible plan. And later on this year, you will see a draft preview of the 2050 MTP. And Sarah's already mentioned our upcoming public meeting in September. So we're getting to those final MTP development stages as we prepare for adoption in December of this year. So with that, thank you very much for your feedback today and your discussion. This has been really helpful. I would like to ask, are there any other questions or ideas that we want to talk through this morning?
Any further questions for Ms. Lorraine? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That concludes today's presentations. There are several items under general information at section 5 in your agenda packets. The next Metro Plan Orlando board meeting will be on Wednesday, July 9th at 9 a.m. Our next MAC meeting is September 4th at 9:30 a.m. At this time, do we have any committee members who want to make any final comments? See,
I have one question. If you don't
Mayor
mind.
Dallas.
My apologies. I think it was Mr. Downs who did. Could you just describe again the relationship between the MTP, the PPL, and then the time frame for each list for me? Because what we're doing here, well, go ahead and then I'll.
Yeah, sure thing. So the MTP, Metropolitan Transportation Plan, is our 25-year plan. Right now we're operating within our 2045 MTP. Taylor is just touching on the 2050 update. So the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, covers the upcoming 5 years of projects that have funding allocated to those projects and project phases. And then the PPL covers the 10 years following the TIP. And those projects do not have funding allocated yet, but it's kind of, the on-deck circle.
But I think our PPL in the past has gone even longer. So that's still intact, or is it now being?
It's that kind of same 10-year period, yeah. As what we see is potentially feasible for the 10 years following the TIP.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, now public comments. If any members of the public wish to comment, please use the raise hand function and you'll be recognized, or dial *9 on your phone keypad. We will unmute your mic. After you are recognized, please state your name and address for the record and limit your comment to 2 minutes or less. Do we have anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chair, we don't have any hands raised on the virtual side, and I have not received any public comment cards to speak.
Okay. And are there any written or phone comments that were submitted before the meeting?
There were none.
Okay. At this time, if there's no further business, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Great job, Lauren.
Thanks.
Yeah, right. Good job. I'm on my way to Tampa.